The story of Taiwan, a land of stunning natural beauty and vibrant culture, begins not with the technological marvel of microchips, but with the thunder of cannons echoing across a divided nation. For decades, nationalists, also known as the Kuomintang, led by Chiang Kai-shek and communists under the iron rule of Mao Zedong, engaged in a brutal struggle fighting relentlessly for control of China. Millions died in a devastating conflict that would irrevocably reshape the map of Asia, leaving scars that persist to this day. This war would also set the stage for a tense and precarious standoff across the Taiwan Strait, a standoff that continues to this day, threatening regional stability. By 1949, Mao's communists had decisively seized the mainland, establishing their dominance, officially founding the People's Republic of China in Beijing, ushering in a new era for the nation. Utterly defeated, Chiang Kai-shek and the remnants of the nationalist forces retreated to the island of Taiwan, seeking refuge and regrouping. There, they established the Republic of China, continuing their claim to be the legitimate government of all of China. Chiang Kai-shek and his followers vowed to one day return and retake the mainland, an ambition that, despite years of planning and propaganda, never materialized. From this point forward, two rival governments emerged, each with its own distinct ideology and path. Both governments stubbornly claiming to represent all of China, fueling a complex and enduring geopolitical dispute. Beijing steadfastly sees Taiwan as nothing more than a renegade province, a territory that rightfully belongs under its control. They view the island as the last unfinished chapter of its long and bloody civil war, a loose end that must be resolved. The leadership in Beijing considers reunification with Taiwan as a sacred mission, a core national objective that cannot be compromised. For China, bringing Taiwan under its firm control is a non-negotiable principle, a matter of national sovereignty and historical destiny. But Taiwan's reality is profoundly different, shaped by decades of self-governance and a distinct cultural identity. For over 70 years, the island has effectively governed itself, developing its own political and economic systems. Over time, Taiwan has evolved into a vibrant and thriving democracy, a stark contrast to the authoritarian rule on the mainland. Taiwan boasts its own democratically elected leaders, representing the will of its people. The island also maintains its own military and a strong sense of national identity, separate and distinct from mainland China. The vast majority of Taiwanese people see themselves as distinct from the mainland, embracing their unique culture and heritage. They have little to no desire to join an authoritarian system, valuing their freedoms and democratic way of life. This fundamental disagreement, this deep-seated divergence in values and aspirations, over identity and governance, over the very essence of what it means to be Chinese, is the seemingly insurmountable chasm that separates the two sides, fueling decades of tension and mistrust. This split, this division, is at the very heart of today's potential conflict, a deep, dangerous fault line, not only in the region but in the entire geopolitical landscape, threatening global peace and stability. The world's most dangerous standoff, a powder keg waiting for a spark, began with a civil war, but its consequences now reach far beyond China's shores, impacting international relations and global trade. The question of Taiwan's future is no longer just a Chinese issue. It has become a matter of international concern. It's a global one, demanding the attention and careful consideration of the entire international community. The choices made in the coming years, the decisions taken by leaders around the world, will profoundly shape the fate of the Asia-Pacific region and indeed, the future of the world. The story of Taiwan, a story of resilience, determination and the pursuit of freedom, is far from over. After the tumultuous Chinese Civil War, the US found itself facing a significant dilemma, a complex geopolitical puzzle with no easy answers. Should they continue to support the defeated nationalists, who had retreated to Taiwan, or should they attempt to engage with the newly established Communist China under Mao Zedong? The result of this deliberation was the One China policy, a carefully crafted diplomatic position. This policy involved acknowledging Beijing's claim to mainland China and Taiwan, but crucially not explicitly endorsing it. Simultaneously, the US would maintain unofficial yet substantive ties with Taiwan, ensuring the island's continued existence as a self-governed entity. In 1979, the Taiwan Relations Act became the bedrock of US-Taiwan relations, solidifying this unique arrangement. It formalized America's commitment to help Taiwan maintain its defense capabilities and deter any potential aggression. This delicate balancing act is often referred to as a policy of strategic ambiguity, designed to keep both sides guessing about America's true intentions. The central question remains: would the US militarily intervene if China were to launch an attack on Taiwan? The ambiguity is strategically intended to deter China from considering an invasion, making the potential costs and risks too high. Simultaneously, it aims to discourage Taiwan from unilaterally declaring independence, which Beijing views as a red line. This fragile balance, though precarious, has managed to maintain a semblance of peace and stability in the region for decades. However, China's rapidly growing military power and assertive foreign policy are increasingly testing the limits of this long-standing arrangement. Every action, every statement, is meticulously scrutinized by all parties involved. China's increasingly frequent and large-scale military drills near Taiwan, the US Navy's periodic passages of warships through the Taiwan Strait, and Taiwan's own ongoing defense exercises all serve as carefully calibrated signals of resolve and capability. The result is a high-stakes diplomatic dance, a delicate balancing act with potentially catastrophic consequences. In this tense environment, a single misstep, a miscalculation, or an unintended escalation could trigger a major crisis. The Taiwan Strait's current status quo is fundamentally built on a foundation of strategic ambiguity, deterrence, and the ever-present potential for tension to erupt into something far more dangerous. As China continues its remarkable rise on the world stage, the international community watches with bated breath, wondering if this delicate balance can possibly hold. The stakes in this geopolitical game are enormous, not just for the people of Taiwan but for the broader stability and security of the entire global order. The US, China, and Taiwan are inextricably locked in a complex, three-way game of strategic competition and diplomatic maneuvering. In this environment, clarity could potentially be just as dangerous, if not more so, than the current state of carefully managed confusion. The world watches with intense focus, hoping that the next move by any of the players involved isn't the one that ultimately shatters the fragile peace. The future of the entire Asia-Pacific region and potentially beyond hangs precariously in the balance. The potential cost of a miscalculation or a mistake in this high-stakes game could have devastating global consequences. Tensions in the Taiwan Strait are no longer abstract. They're visible, daily, and dangerous. China's military now sends jets and bombers into Taiwan's airspace almost every day, testing defenses and sending a clear message. We're watching and we're ready. Massive military drills simulate invasions, blockades, and missile strikes often timed to political events in Taiwan or US visits. These are not just exercises, they're psychological warfare designed to intimidate and exhaust. The risk of miscalculation is high. A single accident could spiral into open conflict. Military analysts debate invasion scenarios, US intervention, and the odds of escalation. The Taiwan Strait has become the world's most dangerous flashpoint, a place where a regional dispute could ignite a global crisis. The saber rattling is relentless, and the world can no longer ignore the possibility of war. The question is no longer if tensions will boil over, but when, and at what cost. The stakes could not be higher. The world's intense focus on Taiwan isn't solely about its complex history and political status. It's fundamentally about microchips, the tiny but mighty components that power our modern world. Taiwan decisively leads the world in advanced semiconductor manufacturing, possessing unparalleled capabilities. These chips are the lifeblood, powering everything from the smartphones in our pockets to the sophisticated avionics in advanced fighter jets. One company, TSMC, the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, produces an astounding over 90% of the world's most advanced chips, effectively making the island the indispensable linchpin of the entire global tech supply chain. Any war or blockade in the region would instantly and catastrophically cut off this critical supply, triggering an immediate and devastating global economic crisis of unprecedented scale. The resulting shock would paralyze countless industries across the globe, halt technological innovation in its tracks, and plunge the world into a deep and prolonged recession. Therefore, Taiwan's strategic importance is as much economic as it is political and geopolitical. The island's security and stability are now inextricably linked to global economic survival and prosperity. While Taiwan's defense capabilities are largely conventional, the potential economic fallout of any conflict would be utterly catastrophic. An economic nuclear winter for the world. Quite simply, the modern world as we know it cannot function without access to Taiwan's chips. This is precisely why business leaders from around the globe Top military generals and seasoned diplomats all watch the Taiwan Strait with ever-increasing anxiety and concern. Ultimately, the fate of Taiwan's semiconductor foundries is inextricably linked to the fate of the entire global economy. The world's continued prosperity and stability are fundamentally dependent on maintaining peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait. The international strategy for Taiwan is a tightrope walk between deterrence and provocation. The US arms Taiwan, aiming to make invasion too costly for China, a porcupine strategy. But every defensive move is seen by Beijing as a provocation, fueling a cycle of escalation. High-level US visits spark Chinese military drills, raising tensions further. As China's military grows, the US and allies ramp up support, risking even greater backlash. The challenge: convince Beijing that war's risks outweigh any reward, without provoking the very conflict everyone fears. The balance is precarious, and the consequences of a misstep are severe. Only a united, credible deterrent can preserve peace, if it doesn't spark war first. The world's security depends on getting this balance right. The Taiwan issue is no longer just a US-China dispute. As China's ambitions grow, regional and global powers are taking notice. Japan, Taiwan's neighbor, now calls peace in the Strait vital to its own security and is boosting its defenses. Australia, through the AUKUS Pact, is acquiring nuclear-powered submarines and warning of the dangers of conflict. NATO and European leaders, once distant, now condemn China's pressure and stress the global economic risks. This growing international chorus signals to Beijing aggression against Taiwan would mean global condemnation and isolation. The world is drawing new red lines. The fate of Taiwan is now a test for the entire international order. The message is clear: a war over Taiwan would not be contained. The world is watching and preparing to respond. Taiwan's future hangs between hope and fear. The island is modernizing its military, focusing on asymmetric warfare, small mobile weapons to deter a larger invader. The US accelerates arms sales and joint training, while debating whether to move from strategic ambiguity to strategic clarity. Some argue a clear US defense promise would deter China, others fear it would provoke war. The stakes, a US-China conflict, would be catastrophic, with global economic and human costs unseen since World War II. Yet, growing international attention could strengthen deterrence. A united coalition, Taiwan's determination, and global economic dependence on the island may help preserve peace. The outcome is uncertain. The world's actions now will decide Taiwan's fate. The fragile peace is precious. And at risk. The next chapter is being written today. The true cost of war over Taiwan would be staggering, far beyond military casualties. The Taiwan Strait is a vital shipping lane. Conflict would halt global trade overnight. Supply chains would break, causing shortages and economic chaos worldwide. Taiwan's chip industry would shut down, collapsing industries and digital infrastructure. The resulting depression would dwarf the 2008 crisis, with mass unemployment and lost trillions. Urban warfare would devastate Taiwan's cities, with immense civilian casualties and millions of refugees. Missile strikes could hit China, Japan, and US bases, creating a humanitarian crisis. Preventing war in the Taiwan Strait is a global imperative. This is not a distant dispute, it's a threat to world peace and prosperity. Every action, every word carries enormous weight. The world stands on the brink. The challenge: step back before it's too late. The future of Taiwan is the future of the world. The path ahead is dangerous, but not hopeless. The goal: peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait, and the right of Taiwan's people to choose their future. This demands strength, diplomacy, and constant dialogue. International engagement is essential. Democracies must make clear that aggression carries unacceptable costs. Sanctions and isolation are tools, but so is keeping communication open to prevent miscalculation. Taiwan's resilience and democracy are its greatest strengths, offering a compelling alternative to authoritarianism. The world must choose: force or peaceful resolution, might or self-determination. The answer will shape the world order for generations. The fragile peace is worth defending. The story of Taiwan is still being written by all of us.